And now if we look through here, what we want, remember that the first thing we write is the TR, and that only happens one time. So we want that outside the loop, right? And here we see the loop, so we want it outside and we want it before the loop. And this one we want outside and after the loop. So let's go ahead and add those. So we're going to start with a string, and that string is called row HTML. So here we're going to create it as a var. Oops, still got my caps lock on. Var and row HTML is the name of the variable. And let's start it with that one part that needs to be just the very first part, which is that opening TR tag. And that's the very beginning. We only want it to happen once. And then we can create the loop, right? Loop through the array and create the TRs, the TR elements. All right. So since we're looping through this array, we'll use a for loop. Oh, and look how much information it gives me. I'm going to erase that and I'm going to do my own for. And here I can create the variable, my looping variable. I'm just going to use I because I don't have any special meaning for it. And I'm going to initialize it equal to 0. And that gets me that very first index into the array. Then I want to do my condition. And I want to do it as long as I is less than. And here I'm going to use the array itself, day name, and that property length. That will make sure no matter how long that array is, this will loop to the very end of that array. And then I put a semicolon, and then the last thing I put is the increment value, how I is going to change. So how do we want to change that looping variable? And we simply want to increment it by 1 each time. Then on our curly braces, then we can go inside and say, okay, what is it that we want to repeat? And if we go back here, we can actually say, oh, look, all of this is repeated. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to say, add this to that row HTML. So I do row HTML and use that plus equal operator, right? Or I can say, add this, concatenate it and add it to it. And then here's that part that I need. Now notice what just happened. We're getting squigglies here because we have an opening quote and then I have a quote inside here. And so it's stopping it. This is a double quote, and it says, okay, when I get to the next double quote, I'm stopping the string. But I want that quote to be part of the string. Well, with JavaScript, you can use either a double quote or a single quote. So if we change this inside part to a single quote, then that will become part of the string. It won't end the string like the double quote does. So we can just say, so now notice that the string goes from the opening double quote till the very ending double quote. And everything in here is part of the string, including those single quotes. So those single quotes will be part of the string, and yet they won't stop, they won't end the string. So this is one of the really handy things with doing double quotes and single quotes and using them together. So we do that. That's going to be repeated every time. Now the next thing that we need is that array name. Right? And so we can get that from the array, and so we can concatenate it. So we just do a plus to get the concatenation, right? And then we can use day name. That gets us in the array. And what index do we want to use? We want to use the one that's in the current looping variable. So we'll use I as our index. And then after the day name, what do we want? After the day name, we want this closing TH tag. So we do that, and this will be in quotes, and we don't have to worry about internal quotes on that one. And then we end it with semicolon. That's the entire TH tag. And now we've coded it one time, and it will loop through and actually do it 7 times. So that's pretty cool, right? So that's what we want to loop. And then remember, we had one thing we wanted to finish up with. This happens only once, and it happens after the loop. So we can add that at the very end. And we can say row HTML plus equals, so concatenate, and now we'll end that closing TR tag. that will end that row. So now we've built the string. We started with the TR, we looped through and added each of the TH elements, one for each day name, and then we have the closing TR. So now we've built that string, then we can simply return it. So we just return row HTML and return that string. Now if we save this and we go back and refresh, nothing's changed. And why that is that? We've written a great function, we just have never called it. So now let's go back up and call it. And we want to do it right after the caption. So let's go ahead and add this to the calendar HTML. So the calendar HTML, and we want to concatenate it, so we'll use the plus equal, and then we'll call this function, the calendar, the cal weekday row. And notice that this one doesn't need an argument. It doesn't need any value to get started. So we just have to just call the function with no argument. And now we save that, and now we refresh. What do we get? Notice we got these tags across here. Notice how this looks different than the test row. So here, if I do the test row, remember what this is? This is where I just wrote it out exactly. Here's what it looks like. Why does it look so different here? That's because of the style that has been added to that class, right? We have that class calendar weekdays, and we wrote that as part of our code. We added that class and their style already provided for that class. And so we get this row across the top that identifies each of the weekdays.